infamous dwarf quest pack is a real product now. I, of course, am talking about Jungles of Delthrak. And this quest pack has had an interesting history, because it just started out as a name from a retailer, even before Rise of the Dread Moon came out, and we had no idea whether or not it was real, myself included. People thought that it was maybe somebody pranking us, or that it wasn't a real product, and it didn't help matters that one of the pictures that showed up for the placeholder images of this product was one that appeared to be an AI-generated jungle with pieces of miniatures on each of its sides. Initial speculation from the community included abominations, lizardmen, and snake humanoids like Yuan-Ti from D&D. But eventually, as information came out, we learned that this was in fact a real quest pack that was coming out. May 31st was the official full reveal and pre-order launch at UK Games Expo, and we actually learned quite a lot about this since then. It's been a while because I'm still behind on videos. I'll be viewing the Avalon Hill listing shortly, but just from viewing these pictures, it seems like a very unique expansion. As I mentioned in the hook of this video, it is in fact dwarves. It is not the exact same dwarf quest pack that was in the unfinished quest notes from many years ago, but it's a dwarf quest pack, and is a direct follow-up to Keller's Keep, because the dwarves in this expansion are refugees from Kabakarn, or Karakvarn, if you're into Warhammer's Old World. And yes, that is a spider, I'll get to that later. Taking a look at the listing, this retails for $44.99 USD, and there's a lot of stuff here to look at. This was revealed forever ago. I'm just going to take a quick look at the box art just for fun. You have the Dwarven Explorer, you have the Dwarven Berserker, I believe his name is. You have several spiders surrounding the heroes. Treasure chest, of course, looks like a Dwarven style one. You have a giant ape here, and a giant snake as well. And very nice decorated jungle picture. In the dense jungle surrounding the mountains at World's Edge, an ancient Dwarven civilization finds new roots. A sacred artifact prized by the Dwarven refugees of Keller's Keep has been stolen, and a dread affliction racks the land. Crystalline growths have developed on the fauna of the jungle, and the creatures have gone into a frenzy. Venture into the perilous jungle lands to uproot the curse that has befallen the region. Vanquish evil, make bold choices, and follow your path to unique endings through an unprecedented choose-your-adventure mechanic. Discover what vile secret looms beneath the canopy, before all is lost. And yes, as you may have seen from that description, this quest pack does have a choose-your-own-adventure element. There's a few different choices between the quests where going to one quest can lead to another, however they do all lead to the exact same conclusion. Even though these are just the pictures of the renders, I think I'm just going to look at this image for all the miniatures. Dwarven Berserker, there's two of them, the male and female. Then you have the Dwarven Explorer, also the male and female. You have two of these rock-looking things, which you can put these crystal pieces on, as well as the fire pieces. There are two of these skeletal archers, which we have seen in a previous expansion. A Goblin Dread Sorcerer, which is not something we've seen before, but is interesting nonetheless. Goblin Archers, which we have seen in Against the Ogre Horde, just as the Skeleton Archer. These miniatures have a different name, but it's the exact same sculpt as the Dread Cultists from Rise of the Dread Moon. And while some people may have been disappointed by this, I think that the other miniatures and the sculpts in this make up for it, as well as the fact that with HeroQuest, I'd say you're probably already used to sculpts being exactly the same, considering that Keller's Keep and Return of the Witch Lord had exact same sculpts as the base game, even 30 years ago. So it's not like it's a difference between Games Workshop and Avalon Hill either. There's this little wolf-like creature. Some people don't like this sculpt. I think it's alright, it's not terrible. Now we can get into some of the more unique elements. Along with the crystals and fire which I pointed out, there's different scenery and furniture than you might expect. This is a much larger treasure pile than the smaller treasure chests that we are used to in the base game, as well as the fact that there's a statue right here of Zargon. And statues and little decorations like that are always fun to have. And yes, a ton of jungle monsters as well. The giant spider, which we saw earlier from that Twitter post, which I do know that several people in the community are happy about, because giant spiders are one of those things that are kind of a staple in dungeon crawling games, and so it's nice to have an official one. Very nice giant ape here holding a massive bone hammer. Must have been a very large creature that he's holding right there that possessed that bone originally. He has a crystal on his neck. He's been infected with dread magic. Another thing here is these raptors. Sure, if you really wanted raptors in HeroQuest before this, you could have got them at the dollar store, but these ones are to scale, and you know that they're going to take paint just as well as any of the other HeroQuest miniatures, so there's some predictability there. One complaint I have seen with these raptors is that their tails extend a little bit far off the base, even though they do take up one space, but that issue is something that we've also seen with, let's say, the Abomination Spears and things like that. Sometimes the board does get a little bit crowded with miniatures, and so you have to just shuffle things around even if things are standing backwards, just to make it work. And of course, I'm not forgetting the 2-tile large snake here. This is an excellent looking miniature, and it's just fantastic. For what I've seen with unboxings, just as with some of the furniture, this thing is very chunky, and I'm glad that it has some weight to it. Oh, I cannot believe that I almost forgot these tree guys either. They seem to be a combination of organic material, rocks and trees and those types of things, sort of like a dryad of sorts. One observation that I have with them is that they remind me a lot of some of the HeroQuest miniatures, when Avalon Hill was in charge of that, and so I feel like they really translated some of the similar design elements into this quest pack just for that particular miniature, at the very least. Now we get into some of the cards. Because I don't possess the actual thing, I'm just going to look at these ones that are on Hasbro Pulse. Hazard. You find yourself drawn to a strange presence. You discover a figurine with wide, gleaming eyes. When you lock eyes with it, it emits a high-pitched shriek. Roll 1 red die for each of your mind points. If you roll a 6, you resist the effects. Otherwise, lose 2 body points. Your turn immediately ends. Return this card to the bottom of the treasure deck. Then we have our giant ape. 8 movement squares, 4 attack dice, 3 defend dice, 7 body points, and 5 mind points. Channel Dread we've seen before with the Dread Spectres in Rise of the Dread Moon. Ooh, Explorer Skills has a different card back here. Looking to be a pile of gold, a candle there, some shears, maybe ingredients for like a toolkit and some other things like that. Treasure Hunter. Whenever you draw a card from the treasure deck that rewards you with gold coins, you find an additional 25 gold coins. And then you have Berserker Skills over here as well. Frenzy. This skill cannot be used unless you have 3 or fewer body points. As an action, you may make a single sweeping attack against all monsters adjacent and diagonal to you, may be used once per quest. Oh, so that's cool. With the Berserker and Explorer, it seems that they're doing skills in much a similar way as they've done with the Guardian Knight. I really like the Frenzy idea. You just kind of do a cleave attack and kill, or at least wound, everything in your field of view. You are the Explorer, a tenacious adventurer with a knack for finding that which is hidden. You don't wear metal armor so as to nimbly avoid traps. Like the dwarf, you're able to disarm traps without the use of a toolkit. When you do so, roll a combat die. If you roll a black shield, you fail. On any other roll result, you succeed. Explorer has 2 attack dice, 2 defend dice, 5 body points, 5 mind points. Starting weapons are just hand axes, so not the greatest. Movement is 2 red dice like normal. Bracers of the Wild. You slip these on and the rhythm of nature courses through you. That's the artifacts. Armor. These magical leather bracers grant you 1 additional defend die. While wearing these bracers, you move unaffected through squares containing furniture and hindering terrain. You may also add 2 squares to your movement roll, maybe combined with a helmet and or shield. Interesting. And they're still doing alchemy ingredients. That's cool too. Nice to see they've carried over the system from another of their quest packs. Sidestep Elixir. Something dark scuttles inside the glass. Best not to think about it. Drink this potion to move unaffected through squares containing revealed pit traps, hindering terrain, furniture, and monsters. This potion's effects end if you suffer any amount of damage. Something you may have noticed with the raptor from when I was looking at the miniatures is that one of them was red and 2 were green. That's because you can have the raptor as an animal companion. The raptor is a faithful animal ally. They're bonded to one hero and take their turn immediately following the turn of their allied hero. They can move, attack, and defend, cannot perform other actions or use potions. They have a unique talent for opening doors. They have 8 movement, 2 attack, 2 defend, 3 body points, and 3 mind points, but there's an asterisk there with their attack dice, and it says, the raptor may move before and after making an attack. Rules as written, you cannot do that with any other creature. However, the raptor is an exception, and something to notice on some of these monster cards is that they have a little keyword here, agile, and from watching an unboxing of it, it appears to be that they're just using keywords on the cards, and then they have more detailed instructions for what those keywords mean in the rulebook, meaning that if you're doing homebrew, you can make a monster and put on here, let's say, the agile tag. Of course, unboxing videos will reveal way more than I've shown here, but I can just show you a brief view of somebody else's unboxing just to kind of show you what's in here. There's a ton of these little creatures which are called spawn, and so some of the big creatures like the snake and the spider, they can spawn in these little creatures, and they can have different effects if they're on your tile, like they do damage to you. And there's a few different tiles here. Some are outside ones, some are spider webs, of course, because you have spiders. Makes sense for the outside ones because it's a jungle. And you have a nice pond, you have a couple different cool skull effects here. A few different tiles for looks to be NPCs. They've done this for a couple different quests now. Ruined Bridge, that's kind of neat. The wound skulls, but they've decided to make them a little bit more green and mossy. You have a cabin with a nice carpet design. Some vines, which I could be wrong, but they do seem similar to the ones that were in Crypt of Perpetual Darkness. A giant plant of some kind, that looks like it could eat you. Venus flytrap, something like that. Dinosaur bones, that's cool. Some kind of magic portal. Got some big pickaxe icons. I'm surprised that they're so large, considering that those tools should only take up 1 square or less. Ooh, that one's really pretty, with everything glowing and it being night. I love that. And those bones means that things are dangerous. Oh, I like these little equipment packs they've done for each hero, like if they lose their stuff. And you can kind of very easily tell whose is whose. That's the elf, wizard, barbarian, and dwarf. I just want to quickly look at Berserker stats. 3 attack dice, 2 defend dice, 7 body points, 2 mind points. They have a broadsword starting off, even though they're holding axes in their cards. Same starting weapon as barbarian. Looks like each class has 3 skills, that makes sense. And without diving into too much detail of what the skills do themselves, it seems to be that the Berserker is more like a barbarian overall, with cards focusing on being aggressive and dealing out lots of damage, and dealing out more damage when you're wounded. Whereas the Explorer is a little bit craftier, they're stealthier, and they have skills to better avoid traps and things of that nature. Saberfang is what that little creature is called. Blightcrawler is the giant spider. Blightweaver is what the Dread Cultists are now called for this expansion. Skullblight is the constructs. Serpent is the giant snake, of course. Raptor is the raptors. Giant ape is the giant ape. And spawnlings are the things that I was just mentioning. And if you look, the set is packed like this. And the miniatures are in there. You may notice that there's a giant space here. You can put your tokens there. However, that leads me to something else. These Jungles of Delthrak dice. There's 2 different versions of these. One of them is just the dice set, and the American version is the dice set with a dice tray in the bundle. While we had previously seen the dice at Gen Con, it took until October 17th to finally see that dice tray. Bourbon and Board Games was the first one to reveal this through a stream. Because we knew that the company was Fanroll that was producing these, we had estimates of what it might be like. However, the actual product seems to be quite nice, and the inside image appears to be the box art of Jungles of Delthrak. It looks quite good. Much like the Dreadveil dice, they do come in this little tin. The dice themselves do seem nice, but at $20 for just the dice and $40 if you're getting it with the dice tray, it seems to be a bit pricey. And from what I've heard from people, the red and the green makes it a little bit difficult to read. So this is more something you maybe want to get if you're a collector, because by now, between the Mythic tier dice that had 12 total, plus some of the other dice sets like Frozen Horror, you probably already have a boatload of dice, and so you don't really need these unless you want to go with the theming. But even then, it's not really necessary. So what exactly are my final thoughts for this expansion? I think this is only a good sign for HeroQuest. I'm glad to see Avalon Hill taking risks again, just as they did with Rise of the Dread Moon, and overall seeing it pay off, even if there's things that people don't like this little saber guy. The more quest packs that come out means that there's a lot more customizability for people when they do their own quests, or even just running through the base game, because you can add in these different elements and kind of switch things up. So let's say you get through all the expansions that have come out so far with your group, and you want to return back to the base game. You can throw in some of these elements from these other expansions and make it a customized experience for your group. You can decide to throw in boss monsters every now and then, if they're up to that challenge, or you can have them play with the animal companions or the explorer and berserker instead of the 4 base game classes. Bardic Broadcasts finally got his dwarven army.
What's this witch lord gonna do when the goldsmith's guild comes calling, eh? Nothing. Except be destroyed? Where's my dwarfs?
Because there's another 4 dwarf miniatures. So that makes a total of 6 for New HeroQuest, compared to 2 if you count Advanced HeroQuest. And the more content that comes out, and people keep buying it, the more likely it is that HeroQuest is going to stay around for a long time, and not die like it did back in the late 90s. Well, it's been forever since this news has been out. I hope this was still informative, and that you were happy to view my opinion anyways. I'll be getting to First Light in a couple more weeks. Thanks for watching, goodbye.